You're listening to the Love Your Neighbor podcast.
Well, thanks for joining us on the Love Your Neighbor podcast, the Lynx podcast. And today we have our Captain Lynx, the captain of the ship, our superintendent, Jarod Larson. Dr. Jarod, thank you for joining us on the Lynx podcast. Thanks for letting us borrow the name as well. I like that. So it's great to have you here. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. Look forward to the conversation.
Cool. Well, I have had the privilege to get to know you a little bit over the years. Approximately, I moved to Brandon about the same time you did, and so we've had the chance to talk a little bit. But our hope today is to obviously to hear more of your story. Was actually just at a family vacation. We're coming back, and I drove past an old Highway 12, and I saw it's Timber Lake, right? That's where you were before you came to Brandon, right?
Yes, sir. Prior to the superintendency in Brandon Valley, I was the superintendent in Timber Lake. Yeah,
that's a little ways from Brandon.
A few hours times 3 or so.
I was like Timber Lake. Oh yeah, that's Dr. Larson's. Now was that your hometown or no?
No. That was that happened to be the school where I got my first teaching job. So I started my teaching career there, and then made my way back when their longtime superintendent retired.
Okay. So growing up, where was home before you got into your first teaching job? Where was home?
Sure. So I am the youngest of 3 boys. Frank and Diane Larson are my folks. My dad was a longtime school administrator in the state of South Dakota. My mom was a home ec teacher, so had educators as parents, small town kid. Grew up in Crestbard, South Dakota, just southwest of Aberdeen. Spent a little bit of time in Mobridge and a little bit of time in Huron before ultimately ending back up in Crestbard and graduating from high school there.
Okay.
After that, proceeded to pursue my college degrees. Ended up graduating from Dakota State University with a bachelor's in elementary education, and did my graduate work at South Dakota State University. Wayne State is where I got my specialist, and then I got my doc from the University of South Dakota.
Wow! So you've kind of touched a lot of bases in South Dakota. You got SDSU, DSU, USD.
Yeah, I was
cover them all.
Yeah, I was laughing with somebody the other day when they were chatting, or this last basketball season when they were talking about the Summit League, and I can cheer for either the Yotes or the Rabbits, so it doesn't really matter to me. I can make either work.
Or the Trojans.
Yes, absolutely, or the Trojans.
It's been cool to see the last couple of months of stuff's coming out on their new facility that's coming, that athletic facility, wellness facility that they're coming up with. That's going to be huge for the community of Madison.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of tremendous things there at Dakota State and also in Madison. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, great. So that call to education, that was kind of, was it did you always know that, or was it something that you kind of later in life you're like, oh, this is what I'm going to do, or how did you get invested in education?
Yeah, it's a great question. So growing up, I really knew you could do 2 things. I knew that you could be a teacher or you could be a farmer. And it just so happened my folks weren't going to be giving me any ground to work or a farm to grow into. So I pursued education, and it just kind of fit.
Sure. Now, you mentioned other brothers. Are your brothers, are they in education as well? Or?
They are. So like I said, I'm the youngest of 3. My oldest brother, Heath, is the superintendent of the Chester area school district, just north of Sioux Falls. And then I would note he's married to Misty. Okay. They have 3 beautiful children. And then my middle brother, Christopher, is a surgeon for Avera up in Aberdeen. He's married to Melissa, and they have, I don't even know how many kids. There's too many for me to even remember and count. I'd leave one out if I even tried. So yeah, two older brothers. But I'm really fortunate to grow up in the family that I did and have the love and support that I did along the way. And They were there to pat you on the back when things went well, and they were also there to pick you up and help you along the way when things didn't go so well. So really fortunate.
So I'm two boys in my family. I'm the oldest. So from the youngest perspective, so when you have a day where you're maybe a tough day at the office, or you got something that's maybe frustrating you, I mean, do you call dad and ask for advice? Do you call your brother? Do you call both? How does that work? I mean, do you have that kind of relationship, or do you just kind of leave that to?
Yeah, I have a very strong relationship with my oldest brother, just given the similarities in the line of work. We have a lot of similar challenges, a lot of similar things to work through. So that's a tremendous resource for me. I would say it all depends. Every one of them will pick up the phone. If I have any medical questions, I'm certainly not calling Heath. I ring Chris up, and his advice is always rock solid. So it depends on the circumstance, but they're a tremendous support system. But yeah, once I got out of the nest, met my wife, Amanda. We were married about 15 years ago, I think. Okay. And we have two children. Croy is our oldest son, or our oldest child. He's 11. Our daughter, Vea, is 7. They're good kids and bleed red and black, man. Yeah. I mean, they love the Lynx. So all in all, I would say just really, really fortunate and really blessed to have the family support system that I do. Given the nature of my work, it's high stress, it's high pressure, it's a lot of time. But thanks to their support, I think I do a nice job of navigating challenges.
Yeah. So you and Amanda. So now, do you take the kids to school? Does Amanda take them, or do they ride the bus?
We've done all of it.
Okay.
Croy has ridden the bus previous years. I've taken them. Amanda's taken them. Okay. It's just a team effort. Most recently, I would say that Amanda has been responsible for chartering them back and forth. So yeah, she's currently working as a substitute school nurse for us due to the COVID-19 pandemic and needing that additional support. When my daughter went to kindergarten, she was able to help the district out and work in that type of substitute capacity. So that's been great for the school district, but also really good for her to be able to have a schedule that coordinates with the kids, and she can drop them off and pick them up.
Yeah, nice. That is a blessing to have that. You've been in Brandon here now. This 22-23 school year will be your
seventh.
Yep. Okay.
We've been here. We've completed 6, and we're working on 7. I think is the last number I had.
When you obviously the events of the last 2 years were not foreseen, but from the time you came here, you really I believe did a really excellent job of establishing a culture and setting expectations to really set the bar for excellence. And it's hard to improve on a school district like Brandon, really. I mean, there wasn't a lot necessarily broke.
Oh, of course not.
But you've done talk to us a little bit about kind of the elements of your plan. That's one of the things that I admire about you is your strategic leadership.
Yeah.
And, kind of always having all these pieces moving around. But talk a little bit about your philosophy of hiring, educating, managing. Where does it come from? How would you express it to somebody who's maybe thinking about coming to Brandon, or somebody who's recently here? The Lynx Way, I know, is you coined that a little bit. But talk to us about what you look for in a school experience for students, teachers, staff. It's a big question.
Yeah,
I'm trying to narrow it down.
Yeah, it won't be narrow. We'll wind our way around it. I think the first thing I would say is that I'm really driven. I'm really driven by success. I'm really driven by achievement. I'm really driven for results. I'm a results-driven person, and I've always felt that success is it's simple. It's not easy. Get committed, be disciplined, stay focused. Those three things in and of themselves are extremely difficult to do and to maintain, but incredibly important for success. So I would say that that is kind of what I'm grounded in. I'm very, very, very passionate about student achievement and making certain that our students are achieving at the highest level possible. And in the K-12 world, I firmly believe that means you have to be committed to the basics. You have to do the fundamental things that lead to student success extremely well. That starts in the academic world with reading. I mean, quite frankly, reading and our district reading protocol and the stress and or priority that we put on teaching kids to read is a primary driver in all of our success. And then you compound that with relationships and empowering your staff to do what they know works and what helps kids learn. So that's a student achievement component. And then I'd also say I'm very passionate about student character and developing kids that have strong character. And that's where the Links Way really came in. The first year I was here, the administrative team and I spent 1 year talking about what we want all kids to be, what we want all Links to be. And after 10 months, we narrowed it down because we knew it couldn't be long. We knew it couldn't be too much. It had to be simple. And that's where the Links Way and ultimately the 5 character traits that we've outlined that we want all Links to be came from. We want kids to be respectful, responsible, safe, kind, active learners. And if the kids walk out of our system and they are those things, I will feel really, really good about the job that's been done. So student achievement, development of student character, 2 things that I guess I'm really passionate about. You mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I try to be incredibly purposeful and strategic in everything that I do and every plan that I lay out. We work really hard at trying to communicate to our patrons at a high level what's going on and what's coming. If you wanted to talk about facilities, because that's something that folks like to talk about, they say things like, "Oh, how are you going to manage your growth? You're growing. What are you going to do?" Well, if you'd like to know how we look 20 years from now, BV Vision 2040 is our long-range facility plan, which outlines how we manage student growth up to having 7,400 some odd kiddos. So, it's simple. It's not easy.
Wait, so stop the tape. Back up. Did you say 7,400?
Yeah, 7,400.
And that's junior K?
Yeah, that's K-12. That's probably a couple decades out. 2035 to 2042. Okay. I mean, there's, a little bit depends on population growth and whatnot, but that would be about how it goes.
What's our total population in the school district now? What's our enrollment now?
Right at 4,900. We'll be close to 5,000 this fall.
What was it when you started 7 years ago? What was the enrollment? 4,100, something like that. I don't even know off the top of my head. I'd have to look. Check the numbers. It was interesting to be in a school board meeting recently, and I think it was, you were preparing to lay out the budget and the priorities for the next school year, and obviously the addition to the high school. Talk about why we're adding on to a high school, why we're creating more space, rather than going like a Lakeville, Minnesota model of going, hey, let's go north and south. I mean, because I think people ask that question in your role of leadership. Talk about what's important about having a one high school district.
Sure. So upon my arrival 6-7 years ago, whatever it was reviewing the facility review committee work that had been done in previous years. And in addition to that, engaged in a 100-day entrance plan where I spoke with lots of folks that were selected by leadership within the district as well as in the city. And the resounding message was, we want one high school. We want one high school. We don't want to have two high schools. We're all links. So we were tasked with figuring out a good strategic way to keep that a reality for Brandon Valley for what I would say is the foreseeable future.
Sure.
And ultimately, what that was is an addition on the high school, which will take our current high school capacity is just a shade over 1,400. I think it's 1,425. And we don't have quite that many kids at the high school. There's 1,350 or so. But long story short, the addition that we're putting on, we'll put on another 20 some odd classrooms and ultimately take the capacity of that high school to just over 2,000 kids. So similar to, and if you think that sounds like a lot, that would be smaller than like Roosevelt was at one time, smaller than Washington was at one time. So it's a large AA high school in the state of South Dakota. So 2,000 is not unreasonable. But we're also a little landlocked at the high school, so there's not a lot of other addition opportunities to make it greater than 2,000. So that's where we really began to have that strategic conversation about, okay, when we get that big, what type of innovative programming can we do offsite to pull capacity out of the high school? And that's where an academy concept at Valley Springs really became an idea. And when we build an elementary on the east side of Brandon, which is slated to happen here in the next few years, I think we have a tentative opening date for that project in like 2025, the fall of 2025. The concept is that the Valley Springs Elementary will close, and Robert Bennis Elementary, because it's almost full, those two buildings will really make up a majority of the kids that get moved into our brand new building on the east side. And then we will have the ability to begin to prepare the Valley Springs site for an academy that will be innovative and provide our kids with some type of programming opportunities that are not currently available at the high school. Career and technical education is a common theme or topic that's talked about for that academy. Could do something with a STEM academy. We could do something with a fine arts academy. The possibilities are really at this point in time endless because we haven't made a determination because it's 10, 12 years down the road. When we get closer, we'll make that decision. But at least we've been able to outline for our patrons, hey, we're going to be one high school for. I'll be long retired before they need a second high school, and that'll be somebody else's circus.
Because that space is for you to create. So then that academy, and there's one in Sioux Falls that would it be similar to that? I'm dropping the name here. In Sioux Falls, there's a school. I'm missing the name of it.
They have a CTE academy that we actually buy slots at right now. Send kids to. Yeah, the concept would be, for example, you're a junior in high school. Instead of being in Brandon Valley High School on site where the site currently is, maybe you spend your morning over at the academy and you do the offsite academy and you do robotics and you do mechanical engineering, and then you come back to the high school for your English class, your social studies class, your science class. And there will be some moving on and off site, some shuttle busing, obviously, some of those various types of things. But the concept is, instead of having a 2,000 student high school, because that's all you have room for really in terms of on site once the addition is done, you increase that capacity by another 600 or so kids because they can be at the academy at a different time.
And this is just curiosity, and I think I know of some students who, one of them graduated this last year, and after COVID, they opted to distance educate from home.
Sure.
Do you see that as a trend that's going to continue to grow, or is that a trend that's going to just kind of go away? Or do you think public education remotely from home is that a part of the, or you're You're not sure. I don't know.
Yeah,
you tell me.
I'll tell you. What I think happened during COVID is educators and public education never became more valued and never became more respected. And parents in the community recognized that having kids in school was the very best place for them. And distance learning is something that we do offer. We have a K-12 distance learning academy. We have seen participation greatly decrease. No, it's a wonderful thing for a certain handful of kids. But from what I am observing, it is not the way of the future. I would tell you that what we did this last year, my message to my entire staff and my message that was reinforced to my administration throughout the entirety of the year was block out the noise, get back to the basics. Block out the noise, get back to the basics. And call it really a traditional mentality, but we did that this year. And quite frankly, our student achievement results, which haven't been made public yet, but will, I don't think they've ever been higher. So we responded to the COVID-19 closure and pandemic in great fashion, in my opinion, and it had to do mostly with the reinforcement of stick to the fundamental principles of what lead to success, focus on that, block out the noise.
That's great. That's a good message. I think, from being a coach and a teacher myself, I think it's not about the plays you have in the playbook. It's the ones that you can execute on the field. And I appreciate that about the Brandon Valley School District. There is such a thing as overcomplicating.
Oh, yes.
That's a real phenomenon we can glamorize, and being a teacher. I mean, there's trends that education goes through. There's fads, but it comes down to the basics, and executing those basics well. Talk a little bit about, if you would, I know this is something you're a champion in terms of the teachers in the district. I mean, talk a little bit about your staff when it comes to the teaching end. I mean, just maybe what's been your gauge? You've taught, you've been around the block educationally. Talk about the teachers in Brandon.
Yeah. Well, the number one factor in student achievement that a school can control is the quality of teacher. I mean, it is the number one factor that drives student success, that a school has the ability to manage, dictate, and control. And at the end of the day, because of a lot of factors, we are so fortunate in the Brandon Valley School District where we're able to recruit and retain the very best teachers available. It's a community thing. People want to live in Brandon. You want to know why you want to live in Brandon? Because it's the safest city in South Dakota. I mean, they win multiple awards year in and year out for a wide variety of things. But it's a community that people are drawn to, and they want to have the amenities of southeastern South Dakota, but yet have that small town feel. So it's a great mix, for lack of a better phrase. It's not just the school doing a great job in creating success. It really is the attraction of the community, the attraction of the area that allows us to recruit and retain those top quality teachers, as well as our administration and our leaders. We're able to recruit incredibly skilled and talented people to lead our respective buildings, and they drive student achievement. So it's the magic. The magic is in the mixture, is what I would tell you, and it's a matter of people wanting to be in our community because they have high expectations for their school and the school performs well. Well, guess what? When people that move in have high expectations for your school and support the school continues to perform well. Right. So it's certainly a magical mixture.
Well, I think having kids that have been in the district myself, and I think about different scenarios and different interactions. The majority of those come student to teacher. And some of those, I just say, that I'm extremely grateful for, and working in the community as well. I hear so many stories of teachers that are here to make a difference, and they see their purpose
Sure.
as really, is raising up kids and teaching them the basics. And I mean, I could go on, about teachers, but that's a reflection of the leadership of our district, and not only our community, but our leadership in our district that says, hey, we're going to hold the bar here. And I'm very, very grateful for your leadership there and demanding that, because ultimately the product is, you're raising up, sending out people, and young people in our world today. And so I appreciate what you do, Jarod. Thank you for coming and taking some time. Did we miss anything? I mean, is there anything, coming up? This will be airing around the time school starts. Is there anything just off the top of your head that I know, you have a weekly column in the paper.
I do. Yeah. I think that if I was to encourage our patrons, if they want to stay informed, the Soup's On is in the newspaper, but it's also located on our website, on my website. It's my weekly, I don't know if it's called a blog. I don't know if I would give it that much credit, but it's a weekly column of some sort, providing updates within the district and happenings. And then also, folks are interested in the high school construction process and project. We did develop a centralized communication hub for the 2022 Brandon Valley High School Classroom Edition. It's a centralized website that will provide our families and our patrons information regarding timeline, regarding parking, regarding the bus loop. Just all of that stuff will be housed in one respective spot, so that folks are able to know right where to go to take a look.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I know we talked a little bit about substitute roles. Substitute teachers are a need. I'm aware the need for bus drivers. Talk about the needs, the people that are living in our community that aren't involved. What are some needs, ways we can get involved? Any come to mind right away that you would say?
I think you hit the nail on the head. We'll take a couple of dozen more bus drivers. We have some classified positions in terms of custodial, child nutrition, EA positions. There's no shortage of opportunity for employment within the district. If someone is interested, they should certainly fill out an application, and we'd look forward to running them through the interview process.
Cool. Well, Jarod, thank you, and to Amanda and your family. Appreciate you taking time out of your day to come share with us and in the community of Brandon. So.
Absolutely. Well, I'm incredibly humbled to have the opportunity to lead the Brandon Valley School District, and my family and I are incredibly blessed to live in the community that we do, and couldn't be happier. At the end of the day, we're bleeding red and black. Go Lynx.
Thank you for joining us on the Love Your Neighbor podcast. The purpose of the Love Your Neighbor podcast is to build community one conversation at a time. You can help us build that community by sharing the podcast on your social media channels and rating our podcast on whatever platform you're listening from. Another way is to let us know of any neighbors who have a story. Go Lynx!